The 2014 United States Senate election in South Dakota took place on November 4, 2014, to elect a member of the United States Senate to represent the state of South Dakota, concurrently with the election of the Governor of South Dakota, as well as other elections to the United States Senate in other states and elections to the United States House of Representatives and various state and local elections. Incumbent Democratic Senator Tim Johnson decided to retire instead of running for re-election to a fourth term in office. Businessman Rick Whelan ran unopposed for the Democratic nomination, while the Republicans picked former Governor of South Dakota Mike Rounds. Also running were two independent candidates, former Republican U.S. Senator Larry Pressler, who served 3 terms in the Senate from 1979 to 1997, and former Republican State Senator Gordon Howe. Democratic primary. Candidates equals. Declared, Rick Whelan, businessman, former staffer for Tom Daschle, nominee for South Dakota's at-large congressional district in 1996 and candidate for SDAL in 2002. Withdrew, Kevin Arts, businessman, Henry Joe Sinke, rancher and resort owner. Declined, Jason Frericks, minority leader of the South Dakota Senate, Stephanie Herseth Sandlin, former U.S. Representative, Brendan Johnson, United States Attorney for the District of South Dakota and son of incumbent Senator Tim Johnson, incumbent U.S. Senator, Pat O'Brien, author, television anchor and radio host, Ron J. Volsky, attorney and former state senator. Endorsements polling results Whelan faced no opposition in the Democratic primary. Republican primary. Candidates Declared, Annette Bosworth, physician, Stace Nelson, state representative, Jason Ravensburg, attorney, Larry Roden, majority whip of the South Dakota Senate, Mike Rounds, former governor of South Dakota. Declined, Steve T. Kirby, former lieutenant governor of South Dakota and candidate for governor in 2002, William Napoli, former state senator, Kristi Noem, U.S. Representative, Mark Bender, former state representative. Endorsements polling results independents and third parties. Candidates Declared, Gordon Howe, former Republican state senator and Republican candidate for governor in 2010, Larry Pressler, former Republican U.S. senator. Disqualified, Clayton Walker, small business consultant and Democratic candidate for state representative in 2010. Withdrew, Kurt Evans, teacher and nominee for the U.S. Senate in 2002. General election. Campaign Rounds was widely seen as the frontrunner throughout the campaign. However, he faced ongoing criticism on the election trail for his possible involvement with the state's ongoing EB-5 visa investigation, concerning the conflict of interest that Rounds' administration had when administering the EB-5 program. State officials misused funds to pay for their salaries, did not disclose that they owned companies which they gave contracts to, directed money towards companies that went bankrupt and arranged for loans from unknown sources from shell companies located in tax havens. In October 2014, Rounds admitted that he had approved a $1 million state loan to meatpacking company Northern Beef shortly after learning that Secretary of Tourism and State Development Richard Bender had agreed to join the company, with Bender then getting another $600,000 in loans that was ultimately used to pay his own salary. Bender committed suicide in October 2013, days before a possible indictment over embezzlement and grand theft charges. Columnist Jonathan Ellis of the Argus Leader called Rounds' fundraising anemic compared to the amount of outside money coming into the state on Whelan's side, and criticized the entire Rounds campaign as more suited for sheriff of Mayberry County than U.S. Senate. Polling internal polling for the Mike Rounds campaign, internal polling for the Rick Whelan campaign. Results See also. South Dakota gubernatorial election, 2014, United States House of Representatives election in South Dakota, 2014, United States Senate elections, 2014, United States elections, 2014. References External links: U.S. Senate elections in South Dakota, 2014 at Ballotopedia, campaign contributions at opensecrets.org, official campaign websites, Mike Rams for U.S. Senate, Rick Wieland for U.S. Senate, Larry Pressler for U.S. Senate, Gordon Howe for U.S. Senate,